Hi, this is Beezy with the Quantum Playground, and I'm hanging out with Lisa and Sheila, and we're going to play quantum baseball.
And Keegan.
Yeah, and Keegan's back there, and we're down at an agility trail this weekend. So it's March 29th, and we just did all the quantum math to figure out all the different innings in the rotations. And
yeah,
it's the first time you've played quantum baseball with us. It's a co-creation. It's playing with the energies. It's a game to transfer out of your head and into your heart. And so there's someone who's fielding a question, which is the analogy to the pitcher, someone who's batting the question, and someone who's fielding the energy and holding. We all actually are holding the energetic envelope, but the one who's fielding is doing a bit more of that. So in this first inning, Sheila is going to pitch, Lisa is going to bat, and I'm going to field.
Yay.
Okay, so in the last week or so, I've been feeling very introspective, and the energy that I've been feeling leads me internally. And I guess my question pertains to when you go internally, when you go, especially like now, I guess, with the energy even feeling more introspective, have you found the energy more conducive for that introspection, or how would you describe it, I guess, is what I'm looking for. How is it, how are you finding it for you? Wait a minute, you're muted.
Sorry.
She's very introspective. So
okay,
I've been very quiet lately.
I was about to say,
I can figure out how to work the mute button. I might be vocal.
I could hear you behind the wall, but I was like, nope, that ain't working.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
Yay. Okay. Yeah, I would say that I have felt the energies to encourage me to go deep and quiet. It's kind of like I'm walking down the halls, sort of even of my internal corridors, and it's almost like everybody's in the dorm room studying. It kind of feels to me like there's a sacred drive inward, and I'm not the only one who has it.
Right.
And it feels as though not conversating, because I kind of have a habit of a lot of back and forth. I question everything. I dig deep into something. I will kind of go around it and look at it and dissect things, and I've not been called to do any of that. I'm feeling called to kind of sit with what is and really notice. And I'm noticing that, like, I'll have a noticing that something will pop up because I've taken the time to be quiet and notice what's in my field. And I'll look at that, and that'll quickly sort of highlight something else. So it'll be, I'm noticing a lot of things that I think were always available to me, but I wasn't in a receptive mode. And the energetics, I feel like, sort of drove me into the receptive mode, if you will, because I just was kind of feeling that way. And instead of fighting the energetics, I'm trying to lean into them now. So if I'm to rest, then I'm just fully resting. And what I'm noticing in the rest is the quality of the experience. Like, for instance, I'm going to try to describe this. So I need to rest, and I'll lay down, and I'll just notice how my body's feeling. I'll notice that maybe I'll have some tension somewhere. And when I sort of address the attention and it drains out, I'll almost notice it leaving now. And I'll start to feel really light and floaty. and then I'll just like sort of savor the moment, you know. And instead of analyzing it, I just stay there, right? I don't go in, I don't jump back out to get into my mind and say, hey, that was a neat experience. What do you make of all that? So I feel like the energetics right now are encouraging a deeper dive, a deeper exploration of my own corridors, if you will. And so, yeah, I think that it always was that way, but I feel like the energies are magnified to the point now where it used to be something I could ignore and sort of push forward with whatever I usually do. But I feel now that the energies have a magnitude to them that I really feel as though I'm surrendering to them. And I keep using that term, leaning into the curves. And I'm doing that because sometimes it feels a little scary just because it's different. And I have an excited energy because this energy is, it's warm, it's inviting, it's loving, it's kind, and it makes me feel excited. Like, not a, ooh, I want to go do something, but this feels really good, like just a welling up inside. And so I'm noticing that the more that I allow this river that wants to take me somewhere, if I notice it and I relax into the flow and I sort of, like look around and like enjoy the scenery as I flow down the river, I'm realizing that when I see the scenery passing by, maybe I'm realizing how I put this all together, how it's all arranged, and how like I'm seeing a broader perspective of it from going deeper into my own relaxation and allowing what wants to reveal itself to me right now reveal itself. And so I'm just finding that even this really quiet introspective moment, which you would think, or I used to feel is kind of boring to disconnect from where all the action is and to go within. Well, that's kind of boring. And now I'm kind of feeling it the reverse. I'm feeling like all the excitement right now is inside of me. And all of this stuff around here is so old and so boring that it's almost driving this deeper dive, that started with just an energetic moment. But the more that I lean into it and the deeper that I dive and the more that I see, the more that I want to stay right there. And I really want to bring this richness, this fullness, this everything that is inside of me out, to share, to explode into my reality and suffer the boring no more. I hope that answers your.
That was quite lovely, actually. Thank you.
And if you sent any more juice over in this direction, Kiki would be bouncing off the ceiling. He's having a hard time containing himself. He likes the ball. You just hit a grand slam right out of the park as far as he's concerned.
Aww.
Energy-wise.
Nice.
So let's pause for a sec.
Easy. Wait, real quick.
Okay, we're back. And what we're gonna do is in between each inning, if someone has something that they feel that they want to share that came up for them, or they noticed, or something that unfolded, we'll do that, and then we'll go to the next inning where we rotate positions.
I'm not quite sure what it is, BZ, but you're sounding a little too far away again.
Yeah, I could hardly hear you.
How's that?
Well,
how's that?
No, that's lovely. We can hear you now.
All right.
So, well, I mean, I love what you said there, Lisa, about that. And actually, I because I'm here, I feel all of what Lisa has just shared. Because I'm right smack in her proximity. And I've been feeling the introspective vibe myself. However, part of the reason I asked the question actually is that what I'm finding for me in particular, and I think I might know why this is occurring in this manner, but I slip out of, I become very easily unfocused and go somewhere else.
Okay.
And it's like I guess it's sort of that bi-locational kind of thing, but I almost feel like I don't. Sometimes it happens as I'm slipping off to sleep or returning from sleep. But there's also been times when I'm just sitting and staring off, as I want to do quite a lot lately. And will find myself, like this afternoon, I had a little lunch and became so immediately sleepy I could barely make it to the bed. So I went for a nap, and as I just lie there, it was like I slipped off into an entirely different reality. And so one where I wasn't me, Sheila, female, 57, all the stats, it wasn't that. And I was on some sort of an adventure because I was sliding through space. And so there's this feels, that's kind of the reason I was asking too, is because it feels like things are becoming very fluid. When you said what you said about leaning into things and just, having that flow, and that's very much what I experienced. I've experienced several times this week. It's just like there's a flow, and and as I'm unfocused, and I'm finding for me, and like I said, I kind of feel like it's the smarmy part of the ego, part of the lower mind part, relaxing a bit so that the higher mind and the heart can just do whatever.
The wheel.
Right. Take the wheel, so to speak.
Yep.
Which is all very new for me.
Yeah.
And feels a bit crazy making sometimes, but interesting nonetheless. So thank you for sharing that, Lisa. Yeah. What about you, BZ? What did that bring up for you?
Lots of stuff. I have to laugh. It's kind of like I have to use a pen on a piece of paper instead of the memo notes, because the way that the phone notes would come in for some of the conversations we were doing, they're pouring in, title and packet of information. All the action is inside me, ... So that's one to discuss. Another one is the compartmentalization of the false construct is designed to break your flow.
Yes.
And so when that comes in, then a packet of all sorts of stuff comes in. And so this is a funny, metaphor that just came. So the secretary is writing all that down, taking notes. Well, and I haven't left 100% attention and focus to it. So the download's coming, all this conversation is going on, and someone could say, repeat, Sheila's last 3 words, and I could tell you.
Nice.
So I'm just on what was going on in the game. I loved. Well, I traveled. Sheila, Lisa mentioned the studying and all the doors are closed.
Yeah.
And so I was kind of voyeuristically with Lisa in the room that she was describing. And then part of me was walking down, the little kid was walking down the hall and peeking in all the different doors of all the different magical things that were great. So I was having actually a great time with what you were laying out. It was cool.
I love it. That was fun.
Well, and just now with both of those, with both of what you're saying, I can feel the multidimensionality of what you're describing. Maybe that's well, because that's where I feel like we're all, because that's what we are.
Yeah. Well,
and
what you had described, Sheila, with like you're someplace and then you're someplace else, and you had said, you referenced the bilocational, right?
Mm-hmm.
But so kind of out of focus, quote unquote, here. Part of that can sometimes be just your choice. It could be, your choice or just your choice, right? If that makes sense. Because of what it is you're being called to do, and you just don't have, this physical vessel doesn't have enough RAM at that moment to use that concept to partake in all of it. Or okay, well that's a fun way to describe it. Or you here is so fascinated with what's going on that you're, instead of staying at your post here, you're doing, right? Does that make sense? So you're
yes. Well, yes,
you're supposed to be in the chair doing what, well, yeah, but I want to go,
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a yes and, because like in this specific, again, this was just this afternoon. It was very interesting for me in that it's not like I brought back the entire whatever is/was in those moments taking place. But it was very, very, very Stargate, very Star Wars, very adventure and action, and to be specific, as I said, I was sliding through what felt like space and dropping into, I don't know, it was like a tank of water or something, like, you're escaping from something or whatever. It was full on action packed situation, whatever it was. And I was with another being, and I was male, and that's really all I have about it. But so yeah, either something that was that, another aspect of me, another physical aspect in another realm or whatever was doing in those moments, either, and hey, I'm nosy, I'm like that.
Or your expertise were needed.
Well, yeah.
Here's a third and, right?
Okay.
That well, it's probably a third and fourth and.
Okay.
As you build and play more of this stuff and allow yourself to, right? And actually remember, even if you wouldn't describe it quite this way yet, but remember the things that you signed up to do. It may not be. So I've got an echo.
Yeah, I don't know what's happening, and when that happened, your voice went not at, I couldn't hear you as well, but I could sure hear you through Lisa's speaker. So I don't know what that's.
Okay.
I don't know what that's.
I have mine kind of loud because I'm having trouble hearing.
Oh, I gotcha.
So should I put the mic closer? Can you hear now?
Yeah, that's better actually.
That's
right
much
there.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
So part of it is the building up the muscles, the multidimensional muscles, and all that kind of thing. Part of it is that you're not quite the right wording, but close. Remembering, acknowledging, and engaging with your missions and things that you agreed to do. So part of that is not per se that, okay, the mission was the green pen mission, right? But the fact that you have specific things to do, right? So they'll be on a, well, you could use this terminology, on a need to know thing. And you said another aspect of you, my senses, and what I'm telling myself is, or what I'm hearing, however you want to describe it, is that it's you doing it, because there's less and less of the separated aspects. It's you doing it. But you forgot your earwig when you're on a mission, right? You have telemetry, right? You have, however you want to describe it, just going to use the earwig in, right? To describe it back, and you forgot it. So you de-animate, because of that, you left the post here. I'm trying to come up with kind of movie metaphors so people can. So you left the post here. You de-animated yourself because you didn't have the earwig in for the full bilocational consciousness, right? And went off on that mission and was doing that thing. Does that make sense?
Oh, that's actually, it makes perfect sense, because I have often felt that when I feel into multidimensionality on a whole, really, not just my own, but just, what is it? How do we do that? How does one bifurcate into all these different, and I have always felt it's a matter of focus and attention. So what you just said made perfect sense, in that in order for me to give my full attention to that particular instance, because it felt like whatever was going down, well, you're sliding through space into a puddle of, or it was a big thing, whatever was happening. And I don't have the full, I probably could if I sat with it and felt into it and all that, and I think eventually all of that will come if that's what I'm supposed to do,
right?
But yeah, I have often thought that is how we do that. We choose, and I'm not sure what the mechanisms are for that, but I feel like that's what I'm doing. Especially when sleep comes over me like that, because that's not been something
I saw it wash over Sheila, and I was like, gee, I hope she makes it to the room. And you got up and be like,
that's another. And so that sleepy train is most often the physical vessel getting a download and a reboot. Actually, the conversation I was sharing with you that I had when I was describing this to the other person I was describing it to, they said, like a reboot. And I said, yeah, and surprisingly very accurate description for what was going on for you.
Right.
So that's part of the and that's the physical vessel reboot, right? But what I'm talking about as well is it's just to use linear-esque terminology, it's a matter of training and mission protocols that, and again, I'm using just a linear descriptor, but the earwig lets you be fully engaged, sliding down the shaft that you're in, right? And whatever you're doing right here, and you can be sliding down or running down the hall or jumping fences right here, in the 3D physical at the same time, and it's you. And it's not just the you as in the universal, we're all one you. It's the you, your unique energy signature. So in other words, more and more are building up their muscles. Some are doing it very actively, very intentionally, very, pumping iron at their own behest from a, cognized way. And some are doing kind of backing into it at the same thing. So that sounds like what you're doing.
I'm sorry. It's just, you just described me too. That's me. I'm always backing into shit. BZ, how is it that you're all the way over there on the other side of the country and you just know me? I'm sorry. I got a sitcom going on in my head these days.
And you make that sound like a bad thing.
Well, no,
you make it work. It looks good on you.
Oh, it does look good on me.
Tight.
Okay, so we're going to do inning 2?
Yes, let's do.
Okay, so if we all did the higher roster correctly, Lisa is batting, Lisa is pitching, BZ is batting, and Sheila is fielding.
Yep.
Okay. Okay, BZ. Share with me and Sheila and, well, everyone, if you don't mind. Keegan, Keegan wants to play too. Just BZ's question this time, Keegan. Okay, so let's hear this. I'm struggling with the question. Okay, so I'm going to stop doing that.
Don't grab at it, just let it come.
Yeah. Okay. So, BZ, when you find yourself swirling, what would you do to stop the swirling and find your center? Like you're out and about and you catch yourself swirled up in an eddy. How do you find your center quickly?
I'd say that's a very apropos question given the last 10 days with lots of periods of swirling. One of the best ways for me to do it is to stop and focus at something that is purely organic. So a tree, an animal, if it's wood on a building or a component of, if we're talking about architecture or building or structure, component of it that is organic. So some kind of cement, because that's combined with the sand. Not like the desk that's right here in front of me, which is I always get the acronym wrong, but the MDX, that kind of particle board, not something like that. So, yeah, if I can touch or look at something just for a moment, I can stop the swirl. the very best way is to laugh, is to notice where the swirling is. And I could be swirling because I'm pissed. I could be swirling because I'm annoyed or angry. I could be swirling because I'm standing in part of my job. I stand for others. And the swirling is induced because those who should be doing that are not, right? So just to kind of give a setup, it could be swirling because, you know, my earwig is in and I want to go do all those different things, and right this moment I have to work or whatever, right?
Right.
And so in the laughter, I can look at what can I catch a piece of the slow the swirling down enough to catch a piece of it. And so okay, that's funny. So like it would present, you know, if you're watching a video and there's subtitles, or there's what's it called on TV, if there's a hard of hearing, you know, you can click that.
Closed captioning.
Yes. Okay. Right. Yes. So on part of the swirl, if I can get the closed captioning to come up,
Okay.
that's inevitably is roaring with laughter, you know, at myself at the closed captioning caption that got captured that's being shown to me. And that right there would be like, you know, you're too funny. You know, have you, how many eons are you going to swirl? So that would be the two ways that I do it. And the particularly funny thing is with the laughter and the closed captioning is, you know, if it's in a work swirl, there's lots of people around, and all of a sudden I could almost be in a meeting and bust a gut laughing because the captions come right. But, you know, I'm known for being a little weird at work, so they don't mind too much.
Which is nice. Oh, I love that.
Well, me too, because, and I don't know what it is about right now, but it feels to me like comedy of the highest order has picked up in my head. Like, I just don't know what. I mean,
Levity, man.
Yes.
It is the best thing going. And in an instant, I can, yeah, by laughing. And usually it's really just laughing at what's going on. I mean, it's all comedy, really. You just got to look at it the right way.
Well, and you can do it with, you know, the saddest thing I can be encountering with, or the most joyful, or the most sublime, or the most beautiful, or the most horrendous, or the most sheer pissiness, or angry, or whatever it is. It works for all of them. There is not, I have, you know, in 55 years, have not come across, and I've been in every farthest out level of every situation on the list I just mentioned, and then some. And it always works, because it's another way too, which breaks the swirling, is it's that closed captioning that comes through, is it's almost like a closed captioning and a translation of whatever the closed caption says. The translation comes through, and you're not small, you know. So whatever this closed caption, you know, which is pretty bloody funny, is also then translating as in you're not small. And so you just said X is happening, or perception of this is that, or whatever it is.
Right.
And it's pretty funny. It doesn't matter what the situation is, it's funny. And in that moment, so from an energetic basis, what happens in me, and it's universal, is that it's realigning my frequencies, and within my energetic true north. and it takes the kink out of the hose. It unswirls the swirl. Where I, okay, that's an interesting way to do it. So where I'm having bilocational consciousness with the actual swirl of the swirl, if that makes sense. So I'm in the swirl. I'm watching the swirl. I'm watching all the players of the swirl. So my triad is doing that, and I can. It's like the snap when I can unkink the hose right then and there, and it releases. The beauty of it is, aside from just laughing for a moment, no one else, unless they're tuned in per se, knows what's occurring, except that everything then changes in that situation. So if it's in the middle of a meeting and there's a bunch of people in the room, right, in regular meeting setup, and this occurs, and I I might get a bit of like a bit of a swirl around, and I immediately go to do this. Sometimes I may be a little late, or a little, hey, I'm going to swirl on the swirly for a little bit. I may come almost one turn around, but it changes the frequency in the meaning that is happening. So it either allows another being's frequency to meet the frequency that's transmitting, and it softens if something is like angry or something, or there's more of oh yeah, I can compromise, where a nanosecond before it was there's no way in hell, and I don't even know what compromise is, that kind of. So it's interesting to dissect it when you ask, because I just do it. I don't think about it. So it unswirls me, and because I'm transmitting, and the energetic envelope and the reality that I'm in, which I've created with these other beings, it transmits new code. So new telemetry gets inputted data, and it shifts the pool that the data is swimming in, if that makes sense.
Sure does. Yeah. Well, that's awesome. Yeah. Well, thank you.
I swear during that, during your sharing there, I saw and the comedian was active in my head, because I saw the comedy that I've been experiencing as well. Along with the comedy, there's been an increase of, oh my God, I'm going to wet myself because I'm laughing so hard. And when you said that about it snaps the kink out, so that, and I thought, wait a minute, that might be why I'm laughing so hard I might pee my pants, because it snaps that kink of maybe, I don't know, that's for some reason, as you were saying that, I was like, oh, could that be why? Because this is something that I've not experienced.
It's kinked, in essence, it's kinked up energy. So it could be solely within you, or it could be within the, that envelope that you have created. Now that envelope can have it could be at work, it could be at play, whatever. It could have lots of other beings, tangible, physical beings in it, or none. That doesn't preclude the snap of changing the.
No, exactly. That's why I was saying, because most of the time, most of all of this that I'm speaking on is happening all within me. It's that, and that's why I said I have like this comedian in my head, and sometimes it doesn't really sound all that funny to anybody else. Apparently, it's just me. But
the comedian, it is just you. It is just you. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's you. So there's the, the an offset thing that I do, and and many others that I know do, is, you know, the deliciousness of cosmic humor. And so, I mean, there'll be times where I'm, you know, I'm nattering away, talking away. I'm right. I am talking away, and I'm driving around. I'm driving a golf cart at work, and no, I'm not a golfer. And you know, and I'm going like as if, you know, I got my best bud, which I do, sitting right next to me,
Right.
and we're going down the road, and I'm busting to gut laughing, and there's this great uproarious laughter going on, and then I pull up to what I'm supposed to do, and okay, you know, I'm getting linear serious now, and going and and doing, but that's part of the humor, you know, and the sometimes can be very wry humor. Sometimes can be it's I don't know if you've ever watched, I can't think if I've seen a number of beings do it, but if they're channeling, so like they're on stage and they're channeling, right, and they and you might catch a video or something, or they're in person, but there is a very, obviously because it's them with them, but there's a very intimate partnership and relationship, but there's also, you know, like finishing each other's sentences and all those kind of things with someone who's, you might see other more linear couples do that. But there is part of the humor that comes in that I give me, that I create with me, is it's this is not at all described in a way that's it's a device, but not in a calculated way, if that makes sense. So part of the device that I have when I'm communicating with me is to use the different, I'm in a linear brain, although it's not like it was when I was born here. So there are devices within the linear human landscape, right? And so if we can communicate with me in a way that is absolutely of love, is absolutely expansive, but can also bring a play in and use the device of the humor. Do you understand where I'm going with this?
Yeah.
Of the linear thing, then it's actually even funnier, because when, you know, when me is talking about this and saying it that way, it's like, okay, now I really am stupid, because right. So yeah, it's in another device, and the first time I realized what you're talking about, Sheila, and it was me and what was actually going on, I think it probably took me 5 or 10 minutes to stop laughing, because it was like, oh, is that what's been going on? This, I get, now I see what's so funny and why it's such a good device.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yes. And this is a good conversation, because as you know, we're expanding, it doesn't mean that all of these human emotions aren't still going to wash over us, or we're not going to be afraid of something, or, you know, that's all normal and a part of life, and it's what you do with it. You know, do you allow yourself to swirl around and create in that space your reality, or do you grab hold of it right away and reset yourself, realign, you know, get yourself back in the center so that you can, you know, move around in the flow and enjoy all of it. I'm having so much more fun. And it's not to say that I don't have the same tragedies befall me that I had before. You know, like, let's just say a year ago, I still had a lot wrong with my life and my world that was very upsetting to me. And I don't have that anymore. I really, really don't. And it's kind of funny to me now, because the truth is so glaringly different than I was holding it. And so, I don't know. I'm really enjoying now even the hard parts because of the tools, the skills that I have now to navigate it. And I'm doing less of, oh, what should I do now? And more, feeling into it. What do I feel to do now?
Right.
Okay, tune in with myself and go, where shall I go? Where should I put my focus and attention right now? And then I'll take a minute and feel around and oh, it's over here. And it's really easy, and it feels more authentic than I have ever allowed myself to feel. Where I'm really tuning in and going, do I want to do this? Do I want to do that? Do I want to look at this? Do I want to eat that? I mean, I'm really looking at it from an I am position, and it feels delicious.
I want to highlight and mark three things that were in what you said. So the last one first. Part of that is that holding. Part of that is that integrating of the both, so that you can observe and be totally immersed all at the same time. Then the second one was, you were talking about, well, just because you're raising your vibration and fully stepping into your multidimensionality, you're not leaving this, that, the other thing. That's absolutely correct, because it's a combination. So we have the propensity to think, well, I'm a little human and it's linear and I can't wait to get to the 5D and this, and then I'll be enlightened and yada blah, and provided I stand with my right leg up and and like this. And what we miss in that characterization is that if you're going to play the hierarchical thing, there's the hierarchical down here as well, because this is one of the toughest schools, the toughest missions, the toughest jobs, not only in general on this planet, but at this moment, at this time.
Yeah.
And the finesse, even if you think you suck at it, the finesse and the dexterity and the aplomb that you have of doing all of these things, the feeling, the sensing, the tasting of all of that, with all of those, quote unquote, limitations to you, is stellar. I mean, it's off the charts. It's how do you do it? So we keep going, well, how do you do that superpower? And we keep going, well, how do you do that superpower? So the cosmic humor in that, of the, well, that's better and I can't wait to get there, is just keep flipping it around and around and around. That's hence the holding, right? Kind of a thing. And the third part, which was the very first part, let's see if I can pull it back in. May not be able to.
I can.
What?
She said that she's much more comfortable than she's ever been.
Right.
And, that a year ago, I don't know, the whole little, and I love the way you did that.
Right.
That's so tiny.
Right. Yeah. And I really felt that way.
Yeah, I know. So I felt like that was where you were going to go with that one.
Yes, it was. It was the marking of, I was going to say, even though it looks like Lisa's kind of doing those two facial things, like an actress who's marking those behaviors, right? But it's also a marking because it was, bringing those, there are two frequencies that are overlaid on her signature, and they're real and distinct.
And they created my reality.
You bet. You bet, because it's an inside job, because it's self-genesis. Because,
right, well,
we could keep it going, because you're not small, because nothing's done to you, because you actually create that. Absolutely.
Well, in that question and in all of the sharings about that, what I saw too is that as creator, if I'm dangling upside down by the ankle in the rope trying to get, then my creations is going to be just a little off, as opposed to finding that center, getting that swirl, under control. Because at that point, I saw what I saw, BZ, when you were sharing that, and that was like in the control seat, sort of where, okay, now I'm strapped in and I can access all the whiz bangs and bell whistles.
Yep.
To get this multi-dimensional gig going.
Yep.
So
yeah, put this earwig and this one in, and got my collar and my whistle and my yoga pants or whatever it is, bathing suit, the noodle or whatever. Yeah. Call
right.
up reinforcements, do this, do that. Yes. And that's
right.
that's exactly what each of us do. But sometimes, as Lisa, demonstrated, we do it in a, and we're calling up all those reinforcements.
Right. Or as we're, like I said, because I almost see it as the same thing with the little smallness as we're swirling, we're still creating. You're always going to create. You're always going to, even when you're dangling off the side of a cliff by the rope tied around your ankle.
One finger.
You're still creating.
5,000-foot building. One finger.
That's right. You're still creating. So, it feels, like, that's why I said I could feel that it's the getting all of that in hand and realizing that focus and attention onto, yeah, okay, wait a minute. What do I want to create? Well, we'll just have more of that swirl if I keep going in that direction.
And one thing that comes to mind right now is that in the going back to the way I described it, when I catch the tail of the swirl and I'm snapping it out.
Yeah.
So it's back to center. It's now I'm in the command chair and I swivel, right? And because it's all a piece of that's connected, is the tremendous benefit, the tremendous expansion that was in that swirl. And I don't need to go swirling, around and around. I can just do a quarter turn, if that, of the swirl and catch the tail of it. Because being able to be in that command center, let's say, lets me then integrate and absorb all of the reward, all of the expansion, all of the deliciousness that swirl provided. It's a gift.
Well, yeah, because there's always something. I'm glad you brought that up, because I have found for myself there's always something delicious trying to inform me, even and almost always, most especially in the midst of a swirl.
Yeah. And the key is you don't have to pirouette all around the room with smarmy for years.
Yeah. Been there, done that.
And you get the the benefit, the expansion, because remember, you're multidimensional. So you've actually taken if you use this metaphor, you've taken the tail of the swirl. It's attached to the rest of the swirl. So someone might, I think they just did say, well, yeah, but if you don't swirl and you're talking about expansion, then you have less of, no, because you're taking the tail of the swirl. So you got the whole swirl, baby. You just don't need to swirl on it. You don't need to have, this character you created to swirl and that one to swirl and these, bricks to fall on your head or, whatever it is. You've got it in the whole one thing.
Yeah.
So to finish up this inning, I had a question for you, Lisa, at the beginning of going and asking for the question.
Yeah.
You were asking the question. if you can, what I'd like you to describe is there was something you were grabbing for. Mostly it was from here, a question. Yeah. And when you stopped the grabbing,
yeah,
because I heard the click came, and you transitioned from, oh my God, I got to think of a question, to, oh yeah, okay, got the question. So can you describe a little bit where that, that point I'm talking about?
Yeah. I think I panicked a little. I got a little stage fright, and I was like, I don't know what to say. And that's what I kept repeating in my head. I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say. And I was like, gee, that's not helping. and I laughed, and I said, okay, all right. And so I just closed my eyes because I knew that would help. That helps me to shut off the external, to shut off the mind, and to drop into my heart, where my heart knows what it wants to talk about. And then all of a sudden it was there.
Damnedest thing, isn't it?
Yeah, well, and what, and I kind of modeled it, actually, because I started swirling. I started going, oh my God, I don't know what to say. I should have thought of something first.
But you see, that's part of the game.
Yeah, it was perfect.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, because then the question was just right there.
That was very important part of the game for everybody to.
Yeah, it was fun.
Cool. All right, let's hit pause, and then we'll come back for the next inning. All right, we're back for inning 3, and Bee's going to be pitching. Sheila's going to be batting, and Lisa is fielding.
Yep. Oh, wait a minute. Did she freeze? No, you're there. Okay.
No, she's tuning in and out of.
Okay.
Dropping down. Because my brain is, going, Smarmy's going, hey, ask this, ask that. What about that? That was my version of. Okay. Okay. Yes, you have to do that someplace else. Sheila, I wanted to see if you would give a little description to when you're. So all of your musings are a little bit different when you do them, right? The ones that you record. You could say from a linear aspect, it's free form, or you go on something, right? There have been a couple, and I don't remember which date or whatever, but can't catch them all. But in some of them, there have been where and it doesn't have to just be the musings, but that's kind of the frame of reference, because it's something that's visually captured, so people can kind of play with that. When you're doing that, there's a thinking component to it, or sometimes that's how you start. You've set it up, you've decided something that you want to create, and it's called a musing, and you're doing it mostly for you, and you're sharing it. Okay. And then, so part of that, which I can tune into, but also see just from a linear way, the when you're on camera and you're rolling with the musing, you're thinking into it. You're thinking about it. You're thinking what you're musing on, and then you're musing on what you think. Does that make sense? But there are moments, and they're quite lovely, and I can actually have it on, not watching you, and be standing a little bit away from the computer, and I can hear and feel and see, even though I'm not looking at the computer, the shift when the musing becomes a dance of all of you bringing it forth. So if my characterization is something that you can feel some of those moments. Could you describe, maybe in two parts, the beginning, if you do feel that, when the dance starts, and what it feels like in any way that you would characterize it of the dance?
I'm not I'm not certain that I can even recognize, and I think that might be you know how you have said sometimes about how you have to back out of a thing to try to explain it?
Mm-hmm.
This is similar in that, except that it's not something that I am consciously aware of or connect to in any sort of way that I can relate to you. And I think that's partly, I'm going to murderize trying to explain this. When I finally grokked, really, that's the only word I can come up with for this. When I finally actually grokked my connection and the depth of my connection and with me in a way that was meaningful for me, it was I was looking for it to be something else. And I know I'm not explaining this quite right, but that what I was trying to describe as something separate from me is not separate, and therefore so seamless that no, I don't. Due to my particular programming and conditioning in regards to intelligence or, these things the way you do because you're so smart and not everybody gets that, that kind of thing, had me viewing myself in a completely different light. And so, okay, well then that can't be that's what everybody's talking about. That can't possibly be the actual connection, which now I get and that's part of why it's so effing funny to me, because it's been there all along. I just thought it was something else.
Hidden in plain sight.
Yeah, no, I get the irony, believe me. So no, I really don't. And I think part of that, maybe but see, the moment I start trying to watch or observe something like that, to try to parse that out again, it does, whatever I was becoming unfocused to allow then is gone because I'm analyzing it or something like that. I guess. I mean, that's the only thing I can say is no. I don't know. I don't know the answer to that, and it's not something I can point to. And I'm pleased to hear that you can tell because I don't. So that's cool.
Yeah, and I'll share something, at least from my view, and I'm pretty certain most beings watching this inning, you actually answered the question beautifully. You illustrated what goes on when answering the question. And you said it because you said, I always thought that, that connection was one way. And it wasn't. In fact, not only do I not need Lisa or someone else help me get connected, I'm so connected, it's seamless. So you actually, although, the top of the body here may want to object, you answered the question. You gave a great illustration in the way that you answered the question. And because you toned it, you reaffirmed for yourself. Because when we say something, so if we're just talking about us and our own process of how we're working today, when we give voice to something, right, we're turning it into matter. So when you toned it, and yes, you were talking to me and we're in this inning and all that kind of stuff, but because you toned it, you gave voice to it, and you could hear it, and you could take those tones back in. And in your own illustration, I would describe it as you locked in that illustration for other parts of you aside from the open heart part that could then get it. Does that make, am I conveying?
Yeah. Yes, that makes perfect sense, because I've actually had quite a bit of experience with just what you're speaking on just over the last week.
Which is why we don't prepare questions, which is why that isn't what this is about, because see how so far in just these 3 innings that all of these just happen to be perfect, and there just happens to be all that stuff right here. And that's the fun of the quantum baseball. We've got 3 more innings, which we're going to do in a shortened 2 videos, but because we can use this as something purely to play with. For me, I'm actually have 2.5 days off, and I get to come and play this game, and I can't tell you how ecstatic I am about that. Plus, we get to share it. Plus, it's a tool to use to, if we're, like we said at the very first one that we did, we can use it for those around us who are awake, and we're all knowingly playing this. We can use it for those of us with others who are kind of, to use that term, awake, or not at all. And it's another tool and fun, expansive toy at the same time in our toolbox to play with all of those things. And it builds our muscle, to go back for what you were just saying. It goes back to the different experiences and the earwigs. And so on this mission and this mission and this mission, where you're sliding down that and you're running out this, or you're typing up the debrief, or however you want to use the different aspects of something you might describe. You reference a lot the Stargate, right? Well, so they've got to go on the mission, then they got to debrief, and then they got to write the report, and they got to requisition new supply, right? So you're doing this is a really helpful tool for doing all of those things. And for me anyways, it's pretty fun. So.
Yeah, no, I really enjoy this little invention of yours. Yeah.
I think we all invented it, but yeah, cool. All right, so let's if we want to kind of feel into any of this last inning before we end it to go into, or are we all done?
Oh, I thought it all was wonderful, and I wanted to say the same thing that BZ said. that really was the answer to the question there, that Sheila is quite seamlessly connected. And I think that's the situation we all find ourselves in. And I think I like that you mentioned that, BZ, because it's good to catch ourselves in the dance and to be aware of, when we're connected with our high heart and our high mind. And so that's really an important tool for this game. I like it. Thank you for that question.
Yeah. And teasing, you know, this is why, Sheila, I feel that it's really helpful to interject this. There have been conversations, you know, over the last, since 17, right?
Yeah.
That's
Yes.
pretty interesting to, there's a mind blower, where you've asked something and you did catch on fairly quickly that the question you asked was far more difficult than at first blush, because it was backing out of that seamlessness to put seams on it, to put steps or components or phases, or, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Well, and two, something that was highlighted for me in your question, in my answer, in all of this conversation in regards to it, is that I can, in this moment of now, very clearly see where I had a specific idea and attachment to the idea of what connection looked like, felt like, tastes like, you know, that sort of thing.
Right.
And I feel it important to interject that here too, because we all have a little bit of that going on. I feel thinking, well, so-and-so knows, and so-and-so says that it's this way. And it could be a little bit of that way for me, but it's not going to be all of that way. And
it's just like that conversation we had, the big the main focus conversation, and then we've had different of, you know, telepathy. So what's this telepathy? I think the title was something like, so what's this telepathy all about? Or it's not,
right.
This is not your father's telepathy, or, you know, some kind of play on that whole thing, right? Because it just doesn't work that way. And there's just way too many beings that are kick-ass creator beings and co-creating kick-ass creator beings, right? You know, with all this thing, that you can't put a peg someplace and say, well, there are 3 ways to be connected, or you know, all of you will come out this way, or
yeah, no, that's the one thing through all of this that I have found out, that ascension is DIY, baby. It's DIY, and you're going to figure it out, what works and doesn't work for each one of us.
That's right.
And so, but I, you know, it's been very helpful to finally get that, you know, to grok that specifically. And that it will all look, and it will all probably look and feel actually very fantastical, which I'm thrilled about, because my whole thing with BZ started out by my saying I didn't belong here, because I jumped straight to the fantastical, and now I see that's exactly what we need.
Yeah, and I would say my life is getting more fantastical by each moment that passes.
Yep.
So I'm not waiting for it anymore. It is just revealing itself to me everywhere I look.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the phrase, you know, well, it'll be interesting to see how that unfolds, you know,
Yeah.
is a very telling one, because even when one's thinking they believe that, thinking they're meaning what they're saying, they actually have a knowing that they're right there with it, and hey, it's unfolding because they're there having it to unfold.
Unfolding it.
So yeah.
Woohoo!
Okay, well, let's go ahead and we'll stop this section of the game, and we have 6 innings slated, so we'll have our intermission, groom the field, all that kind of stuff, and we'll see you for innings 4, 5, and 6.
Till next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.